What's poppin', everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Golf on Tap. Today we'll be going through our final bets for the Mexico Open 2025 at Vedanta World. Joey, I'm coming off a Ludwig Oberg. Big W, my friend. The vibes are high on this Monday. Second winner of the 2025 season through 7 events. I know you weren't there for the Luddy Cash, but did get you along for the Sepp Straka Cash. So still feels like it's been a very good start to the season for both of us. Hopefully we'll keep those vibes going as the PGA Tour heads south of the border. It's the first national open on the 2025 PGA Tour schedule. Joey Ricotta, my friend, how you doing this afternoon?
Good, man. Yeah, look at you. Look at you. Luddy F baby. I love it. Yeah, it wasn't quite the best tournament for me this last week, obviously, but it's good to see the show have the results. So I'm happy for you on that regard. And I had a couple guys that were mixing, one or two that, I thought had a shot, but it just didn't quite, they weren't really there in the end. So but man, Ludwig coming out of nowhere, really not out of nowhere, but I mean, they were counting him out on the broadcast, and he came storming. So great effort on that final round to get you another W, my friend. You got to be flying high.
Oh, absolutely. Love the Sunday sweats. Was frustrating though that the CBS broadcast elected to stop showing their eventual champion shots as he hit the back nine. I thought was a real odd choice of theirs. We didn't see a single shot from him on 10, 11, or 12. And as I talked about on the show that I did with Ross and Ryan French from Monday Q Info, make sure to go and check out that show if you haven't done so already. Quick reminder as well, follow Golf on Tap for free wherever you may be listening to your podcast. Jump on over to the YouTube feed so you can interact with us throughout the episode. Let us know who you're going to be tailing for the Mexico Open this week. But as I talked about with Ross and Ryan French, I was really hoping Luddy was going to come back and wind up winning that, not only because it was going to feel good getting a W and I had some money on him, but just to stick it to the CBS broadcast, because even he said in his post-round presser on Sunday after getting the victory, Joey, that the par putt that he made on 12 was really the key to him going on that run and birdieing 4 of his final 6. We didn't get to see a single shot from that 12th hole, which, by the way, is the hardest hole on the golf course. This guy ended up winning the tournament. So that was definitely frustrating, but I will say just cashing the Ludwig ticket makes all the frustrations that much easier. I knew this kid's game was inevitable, and he had many close calls over the last year since he's fully broken through on the PGA Tour. But to catch him at that 22-1 price tag, when I don't think we're going to be seeing a lot of 20s next to his name in the future, something I specifically outlined in my article last week, was really nice. And I'm excited to see this kid go toe-to-toe with Scottie Scheffler and Rory McIlroy over these next few years, because I really believe he has that type of game. And as we've seen over the last few years, winning is a skill. We saw it happen with Scottie Scheffler. We saw the flashes. We knew he was going to be great. It was just a matter of time before he figured out to win, and he started to pile them up. I wouldn't be surprised if we see the same thing from Ludwig Oberg, because he's just got that type of game. But enough from Torrey Pines last week. We're on to the Mexico Open. Hopefully we can keep that momentum going. It's a golf course, Joey, that, we've only seen 3 tournaments here since this Mexico Open's been elevated back to the PGA Tour schedule. But it feels pretty cut and dry. I mean, it's a wide open golf course out there. I will say the PGA Tour did grow the rough out to 2.5 inches this year, up from 1.5 inches. I'm really interested to see how that is going to play, and if it's going to make it a little bit more tough to just bomb your way around this place, because that's really been the bread and butter, is just hit the driver as long as you can. Hit your long irons really well, though, too, because even though you get a lot of driving distance on this golf course, and it's a driver-heavy golf course, it's still over 7,400 yards. It's actually one of the longest golf courses we'll see on the PGA Tour schedule, and I wouldn't really list this course as a straightforward birdie fest. In fact, in the 3 years we've seen this tournament, Joey, only 2 players have reached 20 under, and it was both Jon Rahm and Tony Finau in the same year. Jake Knapp last year won at -19, and I just think that's because of the length of the golf course. Lots of long par 4s. I believe 6 of the 10 are up over 450 yards. All of the par 3s can play pretty long, stretch over 175 yards. And then you got some long par fives here too. Two of them get up over 600 yards. And another thing to point out about Mexico is very spacious paspalum green complexes. Really hard to get proximity close to the hole on this course, also because you're hitting a lot of long irons, but because those greens are so big. But paspalum is definitely something to note before we get into the odds board here in a second, just because you don't see paspalum tracks very much on the PGA Tour. It's like here, El Cardinal at Diamante for the Worldwide Technology Championship, where it's been the last 2 years, and then the Corrales Punta Cana Championship. And unfortunately, those last two tournaments, Joey, we don't get strokes gained data from. So we don't really get a true vibe of who putts well on paspalum, because it's basically just course history here. So you kind of got to go into the weeds a little bit and do some guesswork in terms of paspalum. But I do think that is something worth noting. Guys who have finished well and played well on those other resort style paspalum level courses. And then another thing I wanted to make sure to reference on the show as well is some of the comp courses that I'm looking at this week. I mentioned a few of them already with Corrales and El Cardinal. Grand Reserve is another one for the Puerto Rico Open. I believe that has paspalum greens as well. But just a couple other driver heavy, pretty spacious courses on the PGA Tour, like Memorial Park, which is the home of the Houston Open. The Country Club of Jackson, I think, is a pretty good comp, host of the Sanderson Farms Championship with the Cock Trophy. And then TPC Craig Ranch for the Byron Nelson down in Texas, as well as Torrey Pines. We've seen some guys who have performed well at Torrey Pines a couple of weeks prior to this tournament snowball that momentum and keep playing well. And I think that is just because Torrey Pines is another driver-heavy golf course where you kind of get some benefits from hitting it a long way. So that's kind of the stuff I'm looking at this week, Joey. Still distance over accuracy, considering they grew out the rough. A lot of long irons, approach, birdie or better, opportunities gained, and then some course history on those tracks that I mentioned in paspalum type of stuff. Like I said, it's, even though it's only 3 years, it's pretty straightforward, I think, with the Mexico Open this week, my friend.
Yeah, you're spot on. I mean, that's exactly what we talked about coming onto this. We're looking at a lot of the same things because a lot of the same things are going to repeat themselves, I think, this year. And it's obviously a short history, only 3 years in, but this is something that, like, when you deal with these longer courses, you know what to look for. You can kind of look at the bombers. I do like that you mentioned, the paspalum greens, and because I do think that that's something I didn't put a ton of effort into, I will say, like looking into how guys did on paspalum in the past wasn't something I tried to factor too much into, but I think it definitely can present some issues there. There will be a ton of birdies obviously this week. But I don't think, it's just there's so much small data or a little amount of data, like you said, to really factor it in for me. And it just would have been a lot. So, but I think, like we have been dealing with a lot of those faster greens here lately too. So that can come into play with this being a lot slower greens and guys leaving the ball short. So, that's something to consider there as well. And maybe you want to avoid some of the guys who have been playing as frequently as they have been here recently, or maybe that's a reason why you would. But yeah, definitely the long irons. That's something to look at. That's pretty much it. Like around the green. I mean, that's like around the green. I'm not looking at it all this week.
It's really easy here. It's a really easy around the green. If you can't chip here, you're a bum. Like, this is a resort style course made for me and you when we're on vacation, Joey. You did bring up a real good point though about the slow greens. I forgot to mention that about paspalum. They run sticky, they run slow, and I think it's especially slow for the guys who just came from the West Coast and are used to those like bumpy, fast little POA type of putts that they've been seeing for the last couple of weeks. These are definitely slower greens. And one thing I factored into my model, I'm really glad you brought this up, because for at least our website and the paspalum data is tricky, right? There's no paspalum options to really have. I went and looked at slow greens. I didn't put a lot of weight into it, but I at least wanted to just kind of see who has performed well on slow greens in the past. Not a ton of weight, but one way to kind of get a look at some things if you don't have paspalum options on your website.
No, that's perfect. And that's something I don't even know if I actually like put it into my model this week.
I think you did.
But
Low-key,
I'm going
when I
to look at yours and just make sure, like, that because I can sort it because I've got yours pulled up next to mine now. So I can actually go through yours and just kind of sort that way from that specific category. Because that is something to definitely look at and, see if there's any correlation with some of those guys with like the off the tee guys too. And I see a couple that stand out right away from looking at yours. So yeah, that's something that we'll dive into and look at here. But yeah, there's a couple people already joining us, which is good to see.
love that.
We got Mr. Daniel Barry Sports Highlights. Yo, what's going
What up,
on,
Daniel?
man? We got Fawn saying guns up. So yeah, man, let's get into it. What do you say?
Absolutely.
Get another outright.
You want me to run through this odds board, or you want to take it over? I'm cool with either.
Yeah, go ahead.
For sure. So let's start with obviously the top of the board, and let's call it under 25-1 and under. So we'll start at Akshay Bhatia, who is the favorite this week, now down to 14-1. I know earlier on in the week, there were some 20s or 22s available on Akshay before Maverick McNeely withdrew after finishing runner-up last week. So I know some people were able to get that number, but currently listed at 14-1 as the betting favorite. Rasmus Højgaard is next at 18-1, Kurt Kitayama at 22, and then Patrick Rogers, Sam Stevens, and Mr. Steven Jagerbombs at 25-1. Where does your interest lie here at the top of the board, Joey?
Well, I know I texted you Monday. I think it was Monday. Was it yesterday? Don't remember now. They all just run together.
They really do.
But I'm assuming it's Monday because it was whenever the odds like started trickling in. We were waiting for some numbers still to come out there. I know Keith Mitchell had the WD this week.
Your boy, pour one out.
Pour one out for him. Yeah, all I have is water right now. But I definitely don't want that on myself because it's freezing in here right now.
Right.
But no, man, Mitchell, I was like, it's Keith Mitchell week. And mostly I said that just to fuck with you. But
an hour later he WDs. It couldn't have been more on.
That's classic Joey betting right there when it comes to Keith Mitchell. So that happens. As far as the top of the board goes, there was a couple other guys that I texted you. I said very interested this week in Kurt Kitayama and Sam Stevens. And I think the reasons are very obvious, and they both show up in both of our models near the top. So Kitayama hasn't played here the last couple of years, but T2 in his only trip. So I think, or was it the last couple of years? I don't know. He hasn't played here.
No, you're right.
Twice.
He last played here in 2022.
That's right.
Been a couple years.
So
finished runner-up.
But he's got all the makings to. I mean, I hate. This is the one thing I hate though, Jack. Is like, I thought I'm gonna have to pick between him or Stevens if I'm gonna go to the top because Stevens, he's excellent on long courses. He's got really good form lately too. There's a couple other guys here that I did have interest in as far as like the further I looked into them, and which is Patrick Rogers and the Jägermeister. Both been excellent here. Rogers top 10, 3 straight years. Jaeger 3 straight top 20s with a T3 last year. So like those guys as well, but I really, really cannot stand the prices on any of these guys. So I'm so far right now, man, I don't have a bet in this 25 and under range. If I get there, it would probably be either Kitayama or Stevens, and it's going to have to be with a boost. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting strategy, and I think a lot of people are going to go that way this week, and I certainly wouldn't blame them because there are names down the board who are probably not all that like far back in terms of odds to actually win this golf tournament. I mean, like outside of Akshay, and I mean, even Akshay's still very young in his career, right? I wouldn't say he's like John Rahm or Tony Finau in the field like these last couple of years. It does really feel like more so this tournament is up for grabs, and I wouldn't hate like people going a little bit further to start their cards. I was a little bit too tempted to pass up this range in general. I was always going to fade Akshay here as one of the betting favorites. Definitely not getting to him at 14-1. Kitayama is so good off the tee and with his irons. I just don't know if I can trust him to make enough putts. I don't love the price tag on Kitayama 22-1. I can't get to P-Raj 25-1. It's like against my morals. I just don't believe that guy is going to make putts on Sunday, and I can't bet that at 25-1. The ones I really looked at in this range were Sam Stevens and Steven Yeager, and I wound up pulling the trigger on Mr. Sam Stevens. He was actually, and this has happened to me so many times over the years, Joey, that like I just got to stick to my guns. So many guys who I've bet the year prior go on to win the tournament the next year, and I don't bet them. I bet Sam Stevens here last year at 100-1. 100-1. He's come along, dude. My card last year was crazy, and I should have stuck with all of the guys who I bet last year. I had Austin Eckroat, who, of course, went on to win the next week at the Cognizant Classic, and I didn't bet him. I bet Johnny Vegas, who, of course, you went on to cash a ticket at the 3M Open. I bet Maverick McNeely at 70-1. Now he's like 20-1 in this field, won the RSM Classic, nearly won at Torrey Pines. And Sam Stevens was part of that group as well. And I'm like, I believed in these guys.
Crazy good number.
Crazy good number on all of those guys, and none of them cashed. And I like felt really good about that card. But I got to stick with Sam Stevens for one more week, even if the Genesis and Waste Management didn't go necessarily how I wanted to. You were on Stevens last week, right?
Yeah, last week I was. Yeah,
and
he did good mostly.
Yeah, he did good. He just had a really bad round on Sunday. Still wound up finishing T31 on a big boy golf course in the signature event. But we saw him, finish runner-up at the Farmers Insurance Open a couple of weeks ago. Really good stuff on Sunday, too. Like, in the moment, gained almost 7 strokes to the field on Sunday. Absolute bomber off the tee, can crush it. Loves himself some driver-heavy golf courses. He gained almost 3.5 strokes at the Farmers Insurance Open at Torrey Pines. Regularly gains multiple strokes off the tee. Zozo gained 4. Shriners gained 4, RSM gained 4, Farmers gained 3.5, Pebble Beach gained 2.5. So this guy does a lot of good work when the driver is in play. I don't love the Sam Stevens number. There's a 26-1 out there at Bet Rivers Enhanced, but he's got he's got a good track record on a lot of similar courses. He finished T6 at the Worldwide Technology Championship in the fall at El Cardinal, which, as I mentioned, another Paspalum resort style course that's also featured in Mexico. T3 at the 2023 Corrales Punta Cana Championship, same exact layout. He was second in my model this week, 10th in long courses, as you referenced, 12th in strokes gained tee to green, inside the top 30 and like all of the key metrics that I'm looking at. And I mentioned earlier, going through my research and what I'm looking at, some comp courses, other driver-heavy golf courses that Sam Stevens has done well at. Finished T10 at the 2023 3M Open. That's a driver-heavy golf course with a lot of water. T10 at the Myrtle Beach Classic last year as well. And also, maybe his closest call to winning outside of Torrey Pines a few weeks ago was the 2023 Valero Texas Open, which, interestingly enough, Joey, is the only other Greg Norman designed golf course on the PGA Tour. So there's a lot of things that Sam Stevens likes about these setups and a Greg Norman style of golf course where he's going to be hitting driver a lot. The irons have been good, and I also love the spike putting that we've seen from Sam Stevens. Gained almost 5 strokes at Mexico, stroke and a half at Genesis, and he's one of those guys that, like, when the putter's on, he's regularly gaining 2 or 3 strokes. So, yeah, Sam Stevens at 26-1 wound up being where I started the card. I did think about my boy Steven Yeager pretty hard, though. Guy who loves him, of course.
I was wondering.
Just rip driver. He loves ripping driver.
I was wondering. I thought that might be actually the person that you go with first here. But, of course, Sam Stevens, I love that. I think Stevens, what kills me is now, because sometimes I'm a little indecisive early in the week because I don't know how many guys I could fit in the card. And there were like 2 or 3 that really stick out at longer odds, which really doesn't affect the top of the board as much. But I hesitated, and I think I saw him at 28-1 earlier in the week with Sam Stevens. So now it's like, it's got me irritated. Like, do I do it or not? And I'm kind of in that, but no, dude, I love that call. I think Sam Stevens is a great pick there.
Yeah, I'm hoping, even though we missed the cut here last year, I do think this is a really good golf course. I think he's in a good headspace. And from hearing from a couple of other podcasts, shout out to Matt Gannon over at Vincerix, he's gotten close to Sam Stevens' caddy, and from what he said, like, he feels like Sam Stevens is really close. So I just like the direction he's trending. Too good to pass up on. But that's all I got.
Insider stuff you love to hear, though.
Insider stuff you love to hear. That's all I got to at the top of the board at 25-1. Let's move on down, though. We'll go from Michael Kim at 28, and we'll stop at Nicholas Norgard Miller at 40. So we got Michael Kim and Taylor Moore at 28, the Ruben, Aaron Rye at 33, Ben Griffamano at 35, Harry Hall at 35 as well, along with Kevin Yu And then Alex Smalley, Bo Hostler, Jake Knapp, Nikolai Højgaard, and Nicholas Norgard Moeller, all at 40-1. You got any names in this range that stood out to you?
Yeah, this is the range I think I'm for sure starting in, unless I go Sam Stevens. But Smalley really stuck out to me. 40-1, and I think I did see a 45 before, but it might just be 40 at this point. Of course, like I said at the top too, with those other guys, with Stevens and Kitayama, I like to cross-reference these things, and I was looking at your model, and he's extremely high over there. So he wasn't even that high on mine, and I still liked him. So that just made me feel really good. He wasn't like low, but he fits pretty well here. He's been really good on approach shots between 150 to 225 yards. All three of those bucket breakdowns that we put into the model there, 26th or better. And off the tee and approach over the last 12 has been good, and good on some of these course comps too, like Corrales. I liked him better at the 45 number, obviously, when I first saw it, but I think the 40-1 number, I really like that. I thought Aaron Rye, of course, the Ruben, the Rachel, was
the hitman, the double glove assassin.
Yeah. Guns up, baby. Where you at?
Guns up.
But no, I didn't go there this week with the Ruben, but the other guy I liked too was Jake Knapp. Of course, he's got the win here last year, 40-1. I think it's interesting because of the win, Andy's in pretty good form too. So let me take a look here and see what the other guys you mentioned in this range. That's it right now. I think it's just, for me right now, for sure, it's Smalley, and then I'm kind of taking a maybe approach with Knapp. What do you think?
Yeah, really interesting range. I thought about Michael Kim for a while. I ultimately elected on Sam Stevens, but I think this is a good Michael Kim golf course, and he's been trending in the right direction and is a former PGA Tour winner. Played pretty well on Sunday at the Waste Management Phoenix Open, which I thought was good in terms of him handling the emotions and everything that goes into playing well down the stretch on a Sunday, especially with that type of setting. So I thought about Michael Kim a lot. I thought about Taylor Moore a lot too. All parts of Taylor Moore's game is really good right now, except his irons. He's nuking off the tee, the around the green. He's truly one of the best around the green players on tour, and his putter can always get lightning hot. I'm keeping an eye on Taylor Moore. I'm hoping he shows some more good signs, and then in the Florida swing where he does a lot of his best damage is where we can maybe get up on him. I ended up starting with, I got two guys in this range. I started with Kevin Yu, baby, who ranked decently. Crank that, baby. Kevin Yu, dude, if you haven't, go and look at Kevin Yu's profile on Rick Rungood. This guy stripes with his irons, man. I mean, tee to green, he's money. And he picked up his first PGA Tour win last fall at the Sanderson Farms Championship, a driver-heavy golf course, which I mentioned in terms of my comps that I was looking at. He's coming off back-to-back top 20s, back-to-back top 17s, actually, and finished T17 at the Genesis Invitational on a big boy golf course against the best players on the PGA Tour, and he gained 5.5 strokes from tee to green, gained almost 7.5 strokes ball striking at the Waste Management Phoenix Open, and gains a ton of strokes off the tee. I'm pretty sure he's 21st on the PGA Tour in driving distance this year. So I think he should be coming in with a lot of confidence. He's also first in my model from 175 to 200 yards, third off the tee, fifth from 200 to 225, seventh in tee to green, 13th in opportunities gained over the last 24 rounds. The problem with Kevin Yu is the putter. It's always the putter with Kevin Yu. He's always liable to lose a handful of strokes. But what I do like is the last 4 times he's gained, actually the last 5 times he's gained, they've all been noteworthy strokes. And one of them was 8.6 strokes at the Sanderson Farms Championship to win, gained 3.2 at the RSM, 1.1 at the American Express, and 1.4 at the Waste Management Phoenix Open. And I think if he can just be right around average, his driver and his irons against this type of field are going to be elevated. So I got to Kevin Yu at 35-1, and I also got to Alex Smalley, who you mentioned at 40-1 as well. Really good start to 2025 for the former Duke Blue Devil. 3 top 21s in his first 4 starts, T16 at Sony, 11th at the American Express. But the finish that actually impressed me the most, Joey, was the T21 that he had at the Waste Management Phoenix Open. And as the sicko that I am, I've been keeping an eye on Alex Smalley for a long, long time because I know he can stripe the shit out of the ball. His approaches are always good. The putter for a long time was a problem for him. And when he was starting to figure it out with the putter, I still wasn't ready to jump on board in the outright market because looking at his high-end finish, he just didn't have enough experience in those big-time moments, in those final pairings, I think, to actually win. So what happened 2 weeks ago? He plays outstanding in the opening 2 rounds of the Waste Management Phoenix Open. His last time out, gains 8 strokes to the field in 2 rounds, gets in the final pairing on Saturday. Things did not go very good for Alex Smalley. He lost 3.5 strokes that day, took himself out of the tournament, but I like to see him rebound on Sunday and finish T21. And I think that experience is really going to bode well for him moving forward. And you mentioned how well he rates out. In my model, 3rd in tee to green, 12th in good drive percentage, really good on long par 5s and with his long irons, and checks a lot of the boxes that I'm looking in terms of past history on driver heavy courses and courses with past pollen agronomy. He was T6 at the 2022 Mexico Open in his debut here, and he gained 10 strokes ball striking, 5 strokes off the tee, 5 strokes on approach, and 2.5 with the putter. Like, that's a formula that wins golf tournaments. Hasn't been as good for him in his last 2 trips here, but I also don't think he's been as good of form as he is right now. And he also has 2 top 6s at the Corrales Punta Cana Championship. T2 in 2022, T6 in 2024, has a T4 under his belt at the 2022 Houston Open. Memorial Park was a comp course I mentioned earlier. T5 at the Sanderson Farms Championship. Country Club of Jackson was another golf course that I mentioned earlier. So a lot of things pointing to Alex Smalley that I just couldn't pass up. So I got to you at 35. I got to Smalley at 40. I will say I am scared of Jake Knapp because this is a 100% true story that I don't know if I had the cojones to tell you last year. In my group chat with my buddies, shout out Pedro. You're aware of Pedro. He is in this group chat.
Vote for Pedro.
Sunday night after the Genesis Invitational wrapped up in 2024, after Hideki went nuclear on that back 9, I texted my group chat saying Jake Knapp is going to win Mexico next week. Then I opened up my phone, look at the odds board. I'm like, Jake Knapp 35-1. That's whack. Didn't bet him, and he won the golf tournament.
Damn it!
And he won the fucking golf tournament. And that was at a point in time where I didn't have an outright in the 2024 season. So yeah, that one really stung. So I certainly have some FOMO on Jake Knapp. I do worry. He's been playing really good in first and second rounds. I don't know if he is ready to put it together for 4 consecutively, but this is undoubtedly a good golf course for him.
He's been playing a lot too lately, right? Like,
yeah.
That's another thing I worry about too with some of these guys is playing a lot.
Good point.
Are you overdoing yourself at this point? And coming in there, like coming off the win here last year.
It's going to be a busy week for Jake Knapp. He's going to have a lot of media obligations.
A lot of media. And like, how does that, it's very hard to repeat somewhere. Like we see the greats do that. Is Jake Knapp considered a great yet? No. Is he ever going to be? I don't know. Like, no. But he's not quite in that category. So yeah, I do like what you said too. First of all, great call last year. Too bad that you didn't get the freaking outright on it.
That one hurt.
But were you saying for you that 175 to 200 range he's been pretty good from? Was that
number 1 in the last 24 rounds?
Well, one of the best correlating numbers too, and this is par 3 175 to 200 yards. It's the second top 10 most correlated stats with strokes gained total this week is that par 3 175 to 200. So
there's 5 of them. I didn't point that out off the top. This is a par 71, but it's a wonky layout. There's 5 par 4s, which you don't see on the PGA Tour, so it makes sense why that kind of has some extra weight. 5 of the 18 holes are par 3s over 175 yards.
It's a lot, man. Yeah, so that does, and the birdie or better gained obviously was number 1. But strokes gained par 3 was number 3. So like you said, it's just it kind of going down the list though. But if he's really good from that range, and that's really an important range, obviously on the par 3s, yeah, I like it a lot for Kevin Yu. And that wasn't even somebody I was really looking into, but good call on your part too.
That's what I'm here for, my friend. Giving you knowledge you didn't even know you needed.
That's right. That's why everybody's tuning in, man. They ain't here to listen to me. They're trying.
They are, Joey. They're listening to you because I promise you, even though I spew out all these golf stats and facts, you are just as lucky as I am in golf betting. And this is still at the end of the day. I'm glad you
called that though. Lucky.
No, still at the end of the day, this is luck. I mean, there is a skill behind it, but you still need to get lucky too. And you hit plenty of guys that I was not thinking of, aka Johnny Vegas at the 3M Open out of fucking nowhere.
That's another week this week, though. If you can only putt.
He could be Scotty Scheffler if he can only putt. But moving on down in the odds board, let's go from 55 to right under 80. So we'll start with CT Pan, who's at 55. Then you got EVR, Eric Van Rooyen, Grayson Rippin-Siggs, and Eric Van Rooyen and Grayson Rippin-Siggs are at 60. Justin Lauer is at 65. Jesper Svensson at 66 with Matt Wallace and Thorbjorn Olesen. And then we got Aldrich Potteter, our boy, at 70, and then Patty Fishburne and Ryan Fox at 70 as well. You got any interest in this range at all?
First of all, your boy, because you put me on to him. But yes, I love this range. This is hopefully the money range.
All right, who you got? Let's hear it.
So the first person that stuck out to me, the first person I like the most is Justin Lauer. 75 to 1 is where I bet him at. I like him even better than Lauer was T3 here last year, so we know that he can do really well. I saw some people saying that he was just putting well here. No, you look at the numbers across the board. It wasn't just the putting that got him into contention here last year. He was definitely, he was pretty much putting just about everything together last year, at least to his level. He's not. I don't think he's one of those extreme like bomber guys.
No, not at all.
This is a course where he can definitely, seems like this is a course that he can do well at from just about everything else. So I really like Lauer this week. I think 75 is just a crazy number. He's actually my favorite bet on the entire card with that price. But Kevin Roy, not someone I've paid much attention to, really, to be honest with you, until now. I'm not sure what the reason for the WD at the Farmers Insurance. That's the one thing that kind of got me worried. Like, was it an injury? What was that? But he's got a T18 here at the Mexico Open in 2023, first in total driving and ball striking this year. He's also been very good from a lot of these yardage buckets that we're looking at this week. And for DFS guys too, he seems to be on the lower end of the spectrum. So I definitely would maybe take a strong look there for DFS. And then your guy. I mean, how can your boy, pot guy?
Oh, you're gonna take him?
Yeah, 70 to 1, man. Like, this kid can nuke it. It's clear as day. I still can't get over the fact that you almost called the first round leader a few weeks ago, and you were right on the money with that. He didn't get it, but he was right there for a while. But he's number one as far as best course fits go this week on Data Golf on their website. He's first in driving distance over the past 36, which, of course, you already know that. So that was definitely another bet for me. Let's see here if there's one that's maybe a little bit. Okay, so he's not quite in this range. But yeah, that's the main interest. I've seen some stuff on Patrick Fishburne that kind of got me possibly excited there too, at least from like a implied percentage that he can do it this week on the Roto Grinders model too. So what are you thinking, man?
The big tuna, Patty Fishburne. I don't know if you've bet Kevin Roy yet, by the way, or if you have. Okay, I don't know if you have access to Bet365. There isn't 100 out there on Kevin Roy.
Holy shit, man! I'm not even on Bet365, but
I don't have Bet365 either. But I was just saying, if you did, there isn't 100 out there on the Roy toy. I joined you on Justin Lauer though. Thought it was a great number on Justin Lauer. I actually wrote him up this week as well. Even though he's finished, what is it? He's finished T63 at Pebble Beach and missed the cut last week at the Farmers. This is still a guy who has 3 top 5 finishes over his last 7 starts, and he lives for these fields and these types of golf courses. I mean, go and look at Justin Lauer's best finishes on the PGA Tour. I'll rattle them off for you here real quick. They're all the same style of golf courses. Worldwide Technology Championship, another Paspalum golf course in Mexico, finished T2 last year. American Express Short Birdie Fest T3, Bermuda Dogshit Field T5, Procore in the fall T7. Like he racks up high-end finishes on these golf courses, and like you mentioned, finished T3 at the Mexico Open last year. So a lot of good reasons pointing to Justin Lauer. Really good long iron player. Whenever you get a course where long irons come into play, that's where you want Justin Lauer. He's third in par threes over 200 yards, fourth in proximity 150 to 175, fifth in proximity from 175 to 200, fifth in par fours, 450 to 500. So he plays these long holes really well because he's a good long iron player. Fifth in birdie or better percentage, 25th in approach over the last 24 rounds. The one thing that I believe will turn a lot of people off Justin Lauer this week is the lack of driving distance. He's 104th in driving distance over the last 24 rounds.
I'm okay with that, though, if it's everything else that you said, like the long irons. I'm
Joey,
totally fine with that.
I'm going to give you an even better reason to like Justin Lauer's chances this week. So if you go and look at his stat profile on rickrungood.com, he loses strokes gained off the tee every week because he's one of the shorter guys out there on the PGA Tour. He just doesn't have the distance to hang in with the best of them. However, he gains strokes off the tee in very rare spots. 2 of his last 3, I believe, have been at resort coastal setups. He gained 1 point strokes off the tee here last year because he hits it in the fairway and gives himself a lot of chances. And he gained 1.9 strokes off the tee at Black Desert Resort in Utah during the fall swing as well. So I think his usual deficiencies with the driver can be mitigated on these resort type of setups. And the rest of his game is, certainly good enough to take down a field like this. So I like Justin Lauer. I mentioned you got to do some kind of guesswork to see how guys fare on past Palom greens. You'd think Justin Lauer does really well on them. He gained over 2 points. He's gained over 2.7 strokes on the greens and both starts at Vedanta. And he's got high-end finishes at both the Corrales Punta Cana Championship and Worldwide Technology Championship. You'd think he putted well at those golf courses as well to get in the mix with his type of skill set. So I think he steps up well on this type of course. And I think like a Sam Stevens, even though he's not in that like category of a known PGA Tour player is kind of on the rise, I think Justin Lauer knows he's really close and knows this is a really good opportunity. So I definitely got on him at 70 to 1. I did think Jesper Svensson was interesting, and there's a lot of Euros in this field who have stats coming from the DP World Tour. It's hard to exactly correlate how that's going to work in this field, but considering this is a lowly field, I think they could be interesting options. Jesper Svensson was someone I looked at. Matt Wallace is interesting, but his bad rounds here are literally, they're like -4 strokes gained in a round. He just like can't not find the water when he's going bad. Potts is definitely interesting, 70 to 1. I don't know if he's got the course decision making to get around this place for 4 days, but honestly, if there's a place to get away with it, this is one of them.
This is it. So I didn't get to any other guys other than Justin Lauer in this range, but I definitely understand your intrigue. Moving down to the 80 to 100. Go ahead. I had a question, just a question for you about
ask away. It's what I'm here for.
Who were you just talking about before Pot Guider?
Jesper Svensson?
No, the guy before that. My brain is like...
Not Pot Guider?
Oh, it was Lauer. Sorry. We were just, both in on him this week. But I was going to say, like, do you think some of that, like him gaining off the tee on courses like this, like the Coastal, like, do you think it's just him knowing how to play the wind too? Like, is that part of it? Like, it's just a thought. I don't know. Because I haven't really looked at his, like, in windy conditions technically, but I just wondered about that.
I haven't either, but... no, I don't know. Here's an interesting one too. He gained 1.6 strokes off the tee at the 3M Open. That doesn't make any sense. That's a driver-heavy golf course that's fairly long.
Yeah, so what is he doing?
He's capable. He's capable. I like him on these setups. I'm taking Justin Lauer for sure. I mean, I already got the bet in, but
it's winning. This is the guy right here. This is our guy. This is the show bet.
I agree. I really like Justin Lauer. But let's go from 80 to 100 real quick. This is where we start getting into a lot of names and a lot of guys have varying odds. But do you have anyone short of 100 that you wanted to mention real quick?
Let me just take a quick little peek here. Short of 100.
There's a lot of names. If you want me to shout out some guys who I thought was interesting real quick before you go through this range, I can definitely do that.
Sure. I only have one guy that actually like drew my interest, but there's a couple that, go ahead. Let's see.
So I think Antoine Rosner is really interesting. He just finished T4 at the Qatar Masters and had a really good end of the season over on the DP World Tour. Hits the ball relatively far, 80 to 1, I think is fair odds. I did look at the Seagull, Charlie Hoffman, who like only plays well on easier driver heavy golf courses where the conditions are warm. Can't make a putt to save his life though, so I ended up off of him. Chris Gotterup, I think, is interesting because he absolutely mashes the golf ball and won at the Myrtle Beach Classic last summer, which is where I mentioned Sam Stevens finished T10 at. So I thought he was interesting. I wouldn't hate a Michael Thor Bjornsson talent play at 80 to 1. The kid crushes the ball a long way. Ryan Gerard is interesting coming from the Corn Ferry Tour. He's got a lot of good metrics with his long irons, and approach has been really good. I think Carson Young is a guy who, like Alex Smalley in the fall, I'm looking for him to start getting more in contention to build those experiences before I actually bet him, but I think he's interesting. The guy I actually did get to in this range, though, was Trey Mullinax, 100-1. Has only played at Vedanta once, but he gained 7.5 strokes ball striking, lost 2 strokes on the greens, and finished T24. This should be a really good spot for Trey Mullinax. Hits the golf ball a long way. Gained 2.5 strokes off the tee at Phoenix, where he finished T32. Also finished T18 at the American Express. So this is a guy who's finished inside the top 32 in 2 of his last 3 starts against better competition. Has good ball striking numbers on this golf course, and also gained 2.5 strokes off the tee at the Black Desert Championship and 2.5 strokes off the tee at the Sanderson Farms Championship in the fall. So, lot of things that pointed me towards Trey Mullinax, and another thing that pointed me towards it as well is career best finishes. T2 at the Valero Texas Open. I mentioned earlier, that's the other Greg Norman design that's still on the PGA Tour. And his other highest finish outside of the win that he had back in 2022 was at Memorial Park Golf Course, home of the Houston Open, which was a T4 as well. So a lot of good results on similar style golf courses where you hit driver a lot. He's the only one I got to in this range, but a lot of guys that you can make cases for. It's kind of the week for that, like scrubs down the bottom of the board. If you got a hunch for one of these guys, I'm not going to go against you. There's a lot to like. Christopher Ventura is interesting. Like, can make cases for lots of these guys, bro.
That's pretty much it. It's kind of like just pick your poison. Like,
right.
which guy do you think? I mean, which guy do you like the best? Pretty much. That's really what it comes down to, because there's so many reasons. Like, like Gerard. I mean, you mentioned him off the Corn Ferry, like 8th in bogey avoidance over the last 36. Or sorry, 4th actually. I was looking at Roy. 4th for Gerard. 9th in birdie or better. And then approach, like you said, like he's 11th strokes gain approach over the last 36. So like, and also good on those par 3s from 175 to 200 too. So there's a lot to like in these. Like I definitely think that like a Charlie Hoffman or somebody like that too would make a lot of sense. So you could really talk me into any of them. You just got to roll the dial, spin the dial, and see which one you come up with.
Yeah, it's just one of those weeks with so many types of guys. If you just have like a belief in some of these guys from down the board, I'm not going to steer you off of them. I could go on and on about these guys. Frankie Sappin from the PGA, from the Corn Ferry Tour, I think is going to be super talented. Ricky Castillo, 110-1. I've seen he's popular this week. Will Gordon, 120-1 is someone I actually looked at adding a little bit lower down.
Man, it's been a while since I bet Will Gordon.
Oh, it's been a while. I don't know if I've ever actually bet Will Gordon, but he's loves him driver heavy golf courses. He can absolutely nuke off the tee. I thought Sam
Ryder,
him
in these shitty tournaments too. That's where I was betting him a lot.
It's the only chance Will Gordon can survive is in these shitty tournaments. Sam Ryder is terrible off the tee, but the rest of his game's in a really good spot. I did bet on Jackson Suber. Do want to get to that. Finished T6 in his first PGA Tour start after coming off of the Corn Ferry at the Sony Open. Was right there at the American Express through the first round. He gained 7.5 strokes in the first round. I don't know if he had the 18-hole lead or not. He sadly wound up missing the cut. It didn't go good for him after that, but his irons have been electric on the PGA Tour thus far. He's gained at least 2 strokes in all 3 events and gained almost 6 at the Sony Open, 3 at the American Express, and he's shown good putting upside as well. 4.5 strokes at the Sony, 2 strokes at the American Express. For a guy who had multiple top 5 finishes on the Corn Ferry Tour last year, I just liked what I saw from Jackson Suber's game, and it kind of gave me vibes of what we saw from like Jake Knapp early on last year before he won in Mexico. So I got Jackson Suber at 150-1. That's legit, just like a straight talent play. Do you got anyone from 100 to 150 before I start shouting real weirdos?
Yeah, I mean, we always try to do this towards the end, all the real weirdos here, but
the real ones.
I'll give you a weirdo that I'm not on, just for the sake of saying his name in a course like this, Mr. Luke List.
Oh, I looked at him. Trust me, he just can't hit an iron to save his life. He can putt right now, which is fucking annoying. He just can't hit an iron.
Well, and then you still can't even really trust that. I mean, let's be honest.
You never can. But legitimately, I looked up Luke List's profile because I'm like 120 to 1. Luke
Been
List.
decent
Like,
lately.
I've made worse bets. He's putting well. I think he's gained on the greens in 3 consecutive starts. He just can't hit an iron, which is so
That's
unlike
wild.
Luke List. So unlike Luke List. Go look it up. It's terrible.
Yeah, well, that concerns me more than the putter being off. Then, yeah, I would probably stay away then at that point.
Honestly, though, I don't know. Like, if I were,
because like, yeah, I don't know. Like, is the form? Do you how much should we weigh form right now with a guy like that?
I don't know what I trust more to happen: Luke List to lose the putter or him to find his irons. Like, I don't know which happens first. But
I
if
trust
he
him
finds
probably
his
more to
irons
actually
first,
lose the putter. To be honest,
you're probably right. Watch him win.
Yeah, no, it's not happening. But I don't hate it really at this price.
I don't either. You could do worse.
I will say though, like Matty Schmid is pretty interesting with the off the tee.
Yep.
And of course, the bet I do have here for sure is the 110 to 1 on Hayden Springer. So top 40 in his first trip here. He was 14th in my model this week. So that to me, that just gives me a really nice value, that 110 to 1 price. He's a bomber. Top 50 in a lot of the main categories that we're looking for this week, from par fours, 450 to 500 plus yards. He's been good, and he's 7th in strokes gained, par 5 from 550 to 600 yards. 23rd par 5, 600 plus yards. Also, he's 3rd on approach the last 12 rounds, strokes gained approach over the last 12. So I think Hayden Springer actually. You could do a lot worse at 110 to 1. So I fired up him. It was like, do I go with my always guy with Luke List that doesn't ever pay me back outside of the one time that I bet him? Or do I try something different this time? So I'm going to go with Mr. Jerry Springer, probably his long lost relative here.
Hayden Springer kind of looks like Big Bird. If you give him a Google, you'll get probably a good crack out of that. But I actually thought about betting Hayden Springer this week. He was one of the guys, like last guys off of the card. I actually went with Jackson Suber at 150 to 1 over him. But I really like that play.
I don't hate Suber either, though. Suber sticks out.
I really like that Hayden Springer play, but you definitely got to go Google him to see if you think he also looks like Big Bird.
You think that Jerry Springer looked a little bit like Big Bird, though? Should we?
Is there some connection there?
Yeah, there's a connection.
Is there a Venn diagram between Jerry Springer, Big Bird, and then it just becomes Hayden Springer?
I think he did pass away, right?
He did.
Rest in peace. There's a documentary out there I've been wanting to watch too on Netflix. I'm probably gonna fire that thing up when we get out of here.
I got 2 more bets to shout out. I don't know if I actually legitimately love them, but they were number plays. I bet Davis Riley 400 to 1.
Yeah, and 400 to 1. That's what he's at.
I watched this guy in last April on Sunday in person beat Scotty Scheffler, and I said 400 to 1. Sign me up.
That's actually a wild price. I might even throw a $5 on that if you're doing it.
There's no reason to feel good about Davis Riley. His game is bad, but he's a 2-time PGA Tour winner playing in a dog shit field, and he finished 5th here in his debut in 2022. So there's upside.
If there's ever a tournament to go like for the 400 level, though, like you could take one guy past that.
I got one better. I got at 600 to 1. Alvaro Ortiz, baby.
I thought you were going to say Hayden Buckley for some reason.
No, that's my Mizzou boy. I wanted to, but his game's really bad right now. Speaking of Mizzou, they're about to tip off here in about 5 minutes, Joey. So we do got to tie a bow on this. But I couldn't leave off Alvaro Ortiz. He was T13 here last year, and I'm pretty sure he played in the final pairing on Saturday. He gained 10 strokes to the field in 2 days at the Mexico Open, played on the Korn Ferry Tour last year and had a good year. T13 at the Argentina Open, T11 at the Chile Classic, T4 at the Memorial Health Championship, T6 at the Magna Championship. Now, obviously, we don't know what the fuck those tournaments are, but those are high-end finishes for Alvaro Ortiz, who's played well at this golf course in the past and came off a missed cut and finished T13 here last year. He's coming off a missed cut this year, 600 to 1. I have to have one Mexican on my card this week, my friend.
I think it's only right. You're at the Mexico Open. You got to have one.
Got to have one. Cristobal del Soler, I will say, is another interesting 600 to 1 play if you really wanted to get freaky this week. And maybe even Rafael Campos, 600 to 1. He made a hole in one here last year and won on the PGA Tour last season. 600 to 1.
That's pretty nutty. Is Vince Cavello, what's he?
Vince Cavello?
Yeah,
You mean Kevin Vello?
It says Vince Cavello here. Is Kevin?
Wait. Vince Cavello or Kevin Vello?
Oh, it says Vince Cavello.
Okay, Vince Cavello.
I don't even really know him, but he's the longest odds on the board, and I thought maybe he's Mexican.
I don't know. You'd have to Google. I don't know Vince Cavello.
Ends in a vowel. He's either Italian or Mexican. I can say that.
You're probably right. I can guarantee you, though, that Jose Antonio Safa has at least some Hispanic heritage in his blood, and he's 2,000 to 1.
Shit, fire it up.
Fire it up, baby. That's all I got, though.
That's it for me, too. That's it. This is a straightforward week, man.
The guys at the end of the board, some guys that maybe you've bet once in a blue moon, you got some kind of inkling to or some fondness. It's that type of week. You hang with your boys this week, stick with your gut. Straightforward type of golf course. Keep the vibes going and cash another winner.
I got to tell you, man. Yeah, well, especially in your case, you're fucking rolling right now. I got to tell you, I think Tony was shocked that we're doing a show for the Mexico Open at Vedanta World.
I honestly was pretty shocked you were really that down to do one as well, but I was never going to say no to come on here and talk golf because it's my favorite thing to do in the world.
Dude, I absolutely don't care. As many times as I want to do it. So, as long as we can do it. There was a slight chance that we would have been rolling Cubs tonight too. So, and then at that point, I would have probably had to cancel last minute on you, which would have sucked. But because that's probably a little bit more important with spring training starting. But
I wouldn't have been too mad with the Mexico Open, but glad we got it out, my friend, as many as possible. Especially when the brand's on a nice little roll here to kick off the year. Break out as much content as we can.
Well, that's the thing. You just need to get on here, and we got to do a little bit of bragging when we hit them.
Got to,
because we don't know how many we're going to get this year. We never know. You got to take advantage of those opportunities. That's the most important part.
Hey. One of the best lines in all of sports, and it's the last thing I'm going to say because I do got to get out of here before I poo my pants and miss this Missouri Tigers game.
Don't forget your space heater. Sorry.
Smoke them if you got them, baby. Smoke them if you got them.
Guns up.
You enjoy the wins when you get them, baby. But do want to say thank you to everyone before we get on out of here. To everyone who tuned in up until the end, thank you very much. Make sure to go and follow Golf on Tap for free wherever you listen to your podcasts. Subscribe to On Tap Sportsnet over on YouTube. We're really trying to get those numbers up. And check out ontapsportsnet.com for all the latest golf news and updates. We also got you covered on the Chicago sports front, beer reviews, movie reviews, just ton of fun stuff. Good content over at On Tap Sportsnet. Check it out. Joey, let's keep the vibes going this week in Mexico. Not sure if we'll be coming back on for the Cognizant or whenever it is, but excited to tune back in with you, my friend. Dive through bets. It's fun. Anytime we get together, let's get a ticket this week.
That's right. Let's get it. Cash it. Lock them. Fuck them. What do we say?
Crack them. Lock them. And then I usually kick it on over to you. That's
okay. Sorry. Let's go through that again.
All right. To everyone who tuned in, thank you very much. Have a great rest of your night. Crack them, lock them, and Joey.
Fuck them.
And fuck them, baby. Have a great rest of your night, everyone. Let's rob the bookies this week.